Tonight on To The Point.
No insurer can stay in business if it pays more in claims than it collects.
So we urge the court to not let this hearing become a bailout.
State Farm's emergency insurance rate request going before a judge. How much prices to cover homes and more could increase, and what happens next. Plus a push to change smog checks.
It's difficult sometimes and nearly impossible to find a smog station with the equipment to smog older cars.
How classic car owners could get a break under a new bill. And celebrating the life of fallen officer Osmar Rodarte. Family, friends, and the community coming together to honor his legacy. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. State Farm is asking to increase their insurance rates following January's devastating wildfires in Los Angeles. Today, the company and the California Department of Insurance appeared in a hearing to address the issue. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen joins us in studio with the developments.
As you may recall, Alex, State Farm initially asked to raise the cost of premium an average of 22% for homeowners, and renters should also expect to feel an impact. But during today's hearing, State Farm and the California Department of Insurance agreed to an average of 17%, though advocates for ratepayers say they're still against increasing the costs.
In an hours-long hearing, insurance company State Farm asked a judge to recommend the California Department of Insurance commissioner to approve their request for a rate hike.
No insurer can stay in business if it pays more in claims than it collects in premiums year after year.
State Farm says it's been losing money for years. January's Los Angeles fires made things even worse.
For every $1 it received in premiums, it has paid out $1.26 in claims and expenses. State Farm General surplus, which is the money that's available to pay claims, has fallen from about $4 billion in 2015 to about $1 billion in 2024.
State Farm has come to an agreement with the California Department of Insurance that it would request a 17% rate increase instead of its original 22%, and says this would come at no risk to policyholders.
The interim rate poses no risk to policyholders because if the final rate ends up being lower than the interim rate, policyholders will be entitled to a refund of the difference with interest.
State Farm says if the insurance commissioner approves this rate hike, they expect to get an additional $400 million.
The combination of the interim rate increase plus the $400 million in surplus note from the parent will immediately improve State Farm General's financial condition.
The Department of Insurance also urges a judge to recommend the commissioner to approve this rate increase. Meanwhile, Consumer Watchdog, a group advocating for ratepayers, says it understands it's a difficult time for the insurance market in California, but believes State Farm has not justified its request.
So we urge the court to not let this hearing become a bailout for bad business decisions.
Adding that refunds don't protect the policyholders.
Refunds are not a substitute for legality. They're not a permission slip to charge unlawful rates today to maybe correct them later.
Understanding this would hurt homeowners. Insurance experts say this was bound to happen given the state of the market.
This could be $400 out of their pocket or $600, which is true, but it's better than not having a policy. This is math. This is not politics. This is not anything other than we need to be sure that the carriers have money to pay the claims.
All right, Jeannie, so we know that this is a multi-day hearing. What can you tell us, or what can we expect for tomorrow or even Thursday?
Oh, yes, Alex, this hearing could last until Thursday, and State Farm does have witnesses to testify on their behalf. Now, again, a judge is only allowed to recommend a decision to the insurance commissioner.
Yeah, and this is something we're going to continue to follow, Jeannie. Thank you so much. We'll keep you updated. And the To The Point team has spent months digging into the home insurance crisis, hearing from homeowners, Congress members, and the insurance commissioner himself about how we got to this point and what can be done to help. You can stream our special investigation right now on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. Today, lawmakers, victims, and advocates rallied at the state capitol in support of a bill known as Mary Bella's Law. The bill, named after two sexual assault survivors, aims to close the loophole in California's elderly parole program that permits the early release of violent offenders, including sex offenders and murderers.
I am a survivor of a violent rape at knife point. It was arranged by family members when I was 14. My attacker doesn't deserve more freedom than the victims they created. This is why we need SB 286, Mary Bella's Law. No survivor should have to relive their worst nightmares because the system prioritizes an offender's rights over victim safety.
The bill was unanimously passed out of the Senate Public Safety Committee today, and now it heads to the Senate for a full vote. Also happening at the Capitol today, former Tonight Show host and classic car enthusiast Jay Leno joined lawmakers to push for a law to exempt classic cars from smog checks. Senate Bill 712, known as Leno's Law, would exempt collector cars whose model is 35 years or older from California's smog check law. The bill would also exempt these cars from the law when ownership transfers. Supporters of the bill say these cars are not driven often and only make up a fraction of the cars that are on the road.
Put more miles on it looking for smog stations than I do driving the thing. And it just makes it such a hardship. Something that's legal in Nevada or Washington State, you drive right over the border and now your car is illegal and you can't have it in California.
The bill was heard by the Senate Transportation Committee today. Members voted 9-2 in favor of advancing the bill. The bill's status is currently on call, meaning members can continue voting or change their vote. Today, hundreds of law enforcement officers, friends, and family gathered to honor Marysville police officer Osmar Rodarte, who was killed in the line of duty just last month. ABC 10's Luke Clary takes us to the memorial at the Hard Rock Live in Wheatland, where loved ones and colleagues say they celebrated the man who gave his life in service to the community.
They came by the hundreds from law enforcement agencies and communities across Northern California, all to honor Marysville police officer Osmar Rodarte, killed in the line of duty last month.
And I've only come up with one word, and that's hero.
But beyond his brave service, beyond the badge, came the stories from those who knew him best, like Marysville Police Chief Christian Sachs, who recruited a straight-laced Rodarte fresh from his service in the U.S. Army.
I remember trying to get him to crack a smile during the interview, and it wasn't easy. He was all business. But once he joined the team and got to know everyone, we saw a completely different side of him, a side that made us all smile.
It was that side of him his best friend knew so well.
Even from a young age, people gravitated towards him. If you ever called him the life of the party, he'd look you straight in the eye and say, "I am the party." And then he'd do something goofy that had everyone laughing.
He was a loving husband to Monica and father to Lorenzo and Antonio.
And never missed a chance to dance and sing with them, whether it be in the car, the living room, or at the backyard during family gatherings.
His aunt, a sergeant with the San Benito County Sheriff's Office, said Rodarte was born to serve.
That I was almost my inspiration of becoming a cop, but in reality, he was my inspiration. He reminded me what it was like to be young and have goals and aspirations. Osmar's life was short-lived but powerful.
Those who came to pay their respects spoke of a deep loss.
We feel this loss deeply. I feel as though I have lost a son.
And Rodarte's lasting place in the family of law enforcement. Reporting in Yuba County, Luke Clary, ABC 10.
Still ahead on To The Point, deportation debate. The Supreme Court ruling in favor of the Trump administration, allowing deportations of Venezuelan migrants to continue. Plus, a roller coaster on Wall Street triggered by Trump's tariffs. The new talks about possible trade negotiations.
And I've got a look at the forecast, which is going to be quite a bit warmer going forward. I've got 80s for the rest of the work week, and I've got the forecast after the break.
Was pretty nice outside today, I have to say. And temperatures are going to continue trending that way, it seems like. So let's go ahead and bring in Brenda Minchev with a look at our forecast for the rest of the week.
Yeah, warmer for sure. 80s are back for the rest of the work week. High temperatures today, we made it to 77 in downtown Sacramento, 74 in Stockton, 74 in Modesto. You look at the map and you see a lot of yellow and a lot of 70s across the valley. Vacaville, Fairfield, 74 and 72 respectively. 60s in the foothills, almost 60 degrees up in the high country. But look, the departure from normal across the valley, 2 to 5 degrees warmer than normal for the time of year. And that departure is only going to grow again for the rest of the work week, because I've got 80s on the way as soon as tomorrow. Right now, though, we're in the 70s across the valley. 73 Sacramento, 72 in Elk Grove, 72 Stockton, 73 in Modesto, 72 Vacaville, 60s in the foothills, about 54 in South Lake Tahoe, 55 in Truckee. And the A's are home tonight. If you're headed to the game, first pitch in just about half an hour or so. It should be about 72 out there. And then 60s really for the rest of the game, and clear skies the entire time. Good weather for baseball, and dare I say great weather for baseball. Clear and quiet overnight, about 48 in Sacramento, and honestly upper 40s across most of the valley. The average low for the time of year is 49, so we're going to be starting Wednesday off right where we should be. But Wednesday afternoon is a totally different story. Warm 80s and sunny for Wednesday, because we are going to be in those low 80s. San Joaquin Valley going to be close to those middle 80s. We have 83 in Manteca, 83 in Tracy on Wednesday, 81 Sacramento, 81 Stockton, 82 Modesto, 81 Vacaville and Fairfield, 84 up in Colusa, 70s and upper 70s in the foothills, even some mid to upper 60s in the high country tomorrow. And that departure from normal is about 10 degrees really for the rest of the work week before temperatures start to come down just a little bit for the weekend. High pressure builds in for the rest of the work week. Then it moves out, a little bit of a trough here. That just means some cooler air on the way, but it's just moderately cooler air. We're still going to be running about 3 degrees above average through the weekend, which means middle 70s. But then temperatures warm again next week as high pressure builds back in. So every day over the next 10 days, temperatures are running above average, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you so much. Next, on To the Point, how new executive orders signed by President Trump are expected to boost the nation's coal production. Plus, the debate over fluoride in our water, why the U.S. Health Secretary is now telling agencies to stop recommending it.
Our free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app has so much to offer. Get your news live and on demand 24/7, so you can watch the news when you want. There's breaking news, extended forecast, and so much more. We have everything you need to get through your day and ready for the weekend. We've got you covered on money-saving tips, travel, entertainment, and sports. Download the free ABC 10 Plus app on your smart TV and popular streaming devices like Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and more. ABC 10. We stand for you 24/7.
Turning now to the Trump administration's first 100 days. Just hours ago, President Trump signed a series of executive orders aimed at boosting the nation's coal industry. Under the 4 orders, Trump uses his emergency authority to allow some older coal-fired power plants set for retirement to keep producing electricity to meet rising U.S. power demand amid growth in data centers, artificial intelligence, and electric cars. Trump also directed federal agencies to identify coal resources on federal lands, lift barriers to coal mining, and prioritize coal leasing on U.S. lands. Some warn that this could lead to negative environmental and health impacts. The Supreme Court today blocked an order requiring the Trump administration to reinstate thousands of federal workers, and this comes after an emergency appeal ruling by a federal judge in California ordered that 16,000 probationary employees be reinstated while a lawsuit plays out because their firings didn't follow federal law. The High Court's order instead requires employees in the federal agencies to be on paid administrative leave for now. This is the 3rd time in less than a week that the justices have sided with the Trump administration. And the justices also ruling to allow the federal government to resume deportations of Venezuelan migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. Rena Roy has the details for us tonight.
Hundreds of accused Venezuelan gang members deported from the U.S. and now detained in a prison in El Salvador. A judge ordering the deportations to stop, but now in a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court saying it can continue. It's a partial victory for the Trump administration, which invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act.
They are foreign adversaries, they are terrorists, and they are living among us no longer, and especially after that ruling yesterday. They better start self-deporting because we're coming after them.
No formal charges have been filed against any of them, and the Trump administration has not been clear about the evidence it has showing the detainees are gang members. The court's majority saying the case was brought in the wrong court, but all 9 justices agreed each migrant the administration seeks to deport must be given due process, advance notice of their deportation, and a meaningful opportunity to challenge it in court. One detainee, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, was living in Maryland before he was deported by the federal government under that act in what the White House is calling an administrative error. The Supreme Court Monday delaying a deadline for his return to the U.S. so justices have more time to consider arguments from both sides. Today, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg also canceling a scheduled hearing regarding the use of the Alien Enemies Act. Boasberg temporarily blocked the president's use of the law in March, ordering the government turn around 2 flights carrying more than 200 alleged gang members to El Salvador. Authorities did not turn the flights around, leading the judge to threaten the administration with contempt. Now, in response to the Supreme Court's decision, the ACLU, which represents several Venezuelan detainees, has filed a petition in district court arguing use of the Alien Enemies Act is illegal. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is pushing to change CDC guidance to no longer recommend adding fluoride to public drinking water. And it comes after Utah on Monday became the first state to ban fluoride from its drinking water system. Right now, about 2/3 of the American public drinking water has fluoride in it. It was added to drinking water back in the 1900s to help prevent tooth decay. Critics like RFK Jr. point to a report from the National Toxicology Program last year that found some evidence of lower IQ in children who had higher levels of fluoride exposure. But none of the children tested were in the United States, and their exposure was about twice the CDC's recommended limit for U.S. drinking water.
In the era of fluoridated toothpastes and mouthwashes, it makes no sense to have fluoride in our water.
Kennedy cannot order communities to stop using fluoride, but he can direct the CDC to stop recommending it and work with the EPA to change the allowed amount. The American Dental Association says fluoride is necessary for good oral health, calling the administration's theories a myth. All right, let's get into your price points tonight. Another roller coaster trading session on Wall Street today, triggered by President Trump's sweeping tariffs. The Dow up more than 1,000 points at the open, but dipping into negative territory this afternoon. The S&P 500 also dropping today 1.6%. New tariffs are set to take effect at midnight tonight. Trump is also vowing an additional 50% tariff if China does not step back from its retaliatory 34% tariffs on all U.S. goods coming into China. That would make the U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods a combined 104%. Meanwhile, the Treasury Secretary today said dozens of countries want to negotiate their tariffs away with the White House. It comes as President Trump's trade representative faced tough questioning from lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
We're not going to be in a situation where we keep allowing Wall Street to run the economy. And as we're making that transition, companies will need to adjust.
Go spend a little time at the grocery store talking to some of my constituents back home. I'll take you around. We'll walk around. We're not going to give anyone a heads up.
A big question remains, how long will tariffs stay in place? If they last a long time, economists and investors expect them to cause a recession. But if Trump lowers them through negotiations relatively quickly, the worst case scenario can be avoided. Real ID enforcement begins in a month, according to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Starting on May 7th, people cannot fly domestically or access certain federal facilities without a real ID. So the identification has a star, a flag, or says enhanced somewhere on its face to indicate that it's real ID status. To get an ID in California, you'll need several documents, including proof of identity and residency, but you can start the application process online. You'll need to visit a DMV office to complete the process. And if you would like to go ahead and start it, we do have some links on our website at abc10.com right now. All right, coming up next, a new scam that you should be looking out for, what we're working on for tomorrow. Coming up tomorrow on To The Point, a moment of kindness for one woman turned into a financial nightmare. A person asked her for her phone, only for her to later find out that that person scammed her out of nearly $7,000 from her accounts. It's not just your money that's at risk. So tomorrow at 6:30 on To The Point, how you can protect yourself from these types of phone scams, especially if someone just asks you to use your cell phone. We'll have all those details coming up. As always, thank you so much for watching and inviting us into your home. If you have something you think we should be looking into, you already know what to do. You can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.